Hi everybody, Richard Tromans here again at Artificial Lawyer TV. Today we're doing a special interview with Eric Laughlin at Agiloft and Ed Sohn at Factor. We're talking about the story which is directly above and directly below this video, which is about the new partnership that they've launched. Hi Ed, hi Eric.
Hey,
Hey,
Richard.
Richard.
Great to have you on the show and to answer a few more questions about this new venture. Ed, do you want to begin and just tell us a little bit about what this is?
Sure. Partnership is integral to a lot of businesses, and for businesses like ours, it's really something that our clients have been asking us a lot for at Factor. There are others out there in our industry that attempt to be a one-stop shop that bring technology and services and everything to the game, and that is one way. That's one strategy. For us, we really double down on the strength and the importance of partnership, of having different players in the market focus and be the best at what they do, and then aligning ourselves and creating and leaning and growing our muscle of collaboration to work together so that we can bring our best in breed capabilities to our clients. They're asking us for our perspective on technology as we go in as a services company. They're asking us to work with their technology. They're asking us for a view and an opinion, and even sort of pre-configured workflows and actual kind of work product and expertise and credentials inside of technology. And so what we do at Factor is constantly we're always engaged in market scanning. We're always looking at what is the actual state of the art in the market, which in the contracting world changes just dramatically all the time, and so really requires significant kind of digging in and market scanning. And our first kind of cohort in our partnership program, which is called Factor Connect, really is the fruit of that work, identifying partners where we have a really great strategic and complementary fit when it comes to capability, where we think that we can add a lot more effectiveness together with our clients, going to the market together, responding to client needs together. And also where we see, really significant indicia of strong partnership and collaboration as a muscle in the organizations, where trust is a crucial currency, where there's definitely mutual benefit, where there's commercial alignment, these kind of qualities that really appear in our partners. And so we're launching this, and Agiloft is, one of our most important partners in that portfolio, and something that we're really excited about, where Eric and I have worked together in the past. And have a lot of intimate knowledge of each other's organizations, and the work that we're doing together in the market for our clients. And so we're so excited to kind of get out there and signal to the market that we're working together.
Fantastic. Well, there's a few questions I'm going to come back to on that, namely Lex Fusion, but we'll leave that just for 1 second.
Sure.
So, Eric, CEO of Agiloft, CLM company. Why have you joined? Why have you partnered? And we'll come back to that relationship you already have, and also, of course, you know each other previously. Let's go. But just on this particular point, why do this? What's going to be the benefit?
Yeah. Well, Agiloft is a CLM platform. We have 700 large customers, and they have a lot of very complex needs. And the thing that's most important about the Agiloft platform, and the thing that sets it apart, is that it has incredible flexibility and incredible extensibility. And that's for what our clients need today in terms of the complex workflows and sort of getting started on CLM. It's also for tomorrow, right? When they start to innovate more, they start to improve their processes. And the way that I think of Agiloft as a platform, or one metaphor for it, is it's a palette, right? It's a palette for process innovators to paint with. And when I look over at the Factor organization, Ed and Varun, Michael Collier, others there, it's a whole class of innovators who really understand that contract workflows are not static things, right? They are things that need to be continuously improved and improved over time. And so we know that we have a huge benefit, and our clients have a huge benefit if they are strong power users of Agiloft. If they can come in and do consulting for our clients, if they can come in and do some of the critical things like data migration for our platform. So having teamed up with a great organization is just wonderful for our 700 plus clients and for everyone else that comes next.
Gotcha. But this is obviously more than just a sort of casual relationship. I mean, this is you're kind of dating, you might say. This is, and you already were already, which makes it doubly strange. But anyway, we'll come back to that. I guess the point is, how does this go beyond just you guys sending work to each other, or saying, Eric brings up Ed and says, hey, look, we've got this big client, we've got a big data migration, you've got the capability and that contract specialization, we really need you to come in and do that work for us because we can't do it. But you could do that anyway, couldn't you? But why kind of formalize this? And does this go beyond a sort of ad hoc relationship? And I guess the second question would be, does this go beyond just a kind of marketing relationship? Do you actually get into some kind of technical software or whatever integrations?
I mean,
So maybe
there's a lot to, Ed, go ahead.
yeah,
Sorry,
no. So maybe I'll step in there because I just feel like you've thrown an alley-oop for a dunk, because you're really singing a lot of out of the same songbook that is really at the core of our partnership strategy at Factor, and I know very much in line with the values over at Agiloft as well, which is really that we want our partnerships to go beyond just a strictly kind of commercial partnership. Commercial partnership is crucial. I think that it's really important where we can bring a joint value proposition to our clients in a way that really understands and makes sense, as partners that really bring that value into the market, both on technology and services, and where we see that and where we trust in each other enough to really do that well and architect those solutions. Actually, that is table stakes in a successful partnership. But as your question, like strongly implies, we want to go much more beyond that. And so at Factor, one of the things that Eric just mentioned around the flexibility of Agiloft, that's something that was very attractive to us. And as we continue to architect our kind of best in industry workflows, being able to identify ways to capture knowledge through things like clauses and actual kind of output that's come through the course of the million contracts that we've handled over the course of our organization. That's the kind of thing where we are looking for this kind of knowledge repository and place where our processes and workflows and contracting practices kind of manifest and take shape and find expression in technology. And so we are looking to make that investment together with Agiloft and really be able to identify ways that we can present that to our clients and to the market. Some of that will be very intentional, and some of that will also be really organic, where, like, look, we did this together with a client. It totally worked. We think that there's use cases elsewhere. Let's go and expand it more broadly. And the Agiloft kind of platform, with everything that Eric and the whole crew is doing over there, Andy Wishart, who I caught up with recently, and just looking at kind of where they're headed, it makes a ton of sense for us to kind of be working on that together. And then also even, really finding ways to identify how Factor's own kind of IP and our work product and what we do can be ready in a technology solution to be delivered together. That's something that we found really exciting, was compelling, in this particular partnership.
Yeah, no,
I think, sorry, Richard, just to add to that, I think clients can tell, right? I think when you go to a client together, you can tell if it's a real sort of bonded relationship where you know each other as organizations and you know each other's technology and service capabilities. Versus somebody who's just showing up as a part of a selling or a sort of marketing collaboration. I think it's obvious when you speak the same language. I think it's obvious when you have experience that you can talk to jointly about clients you've worked with in the past. And so I think that shows up. And as you mentioned earlier, our organizations have a lot of sort of personal relationships and personal bonds, and have established in the last just even in the last year. Joint sort of client work that we've done together to experience, have some of that experience to bring to the table.
I will also say, like, and I said this, but I just wanted to kind of like put it slightly differently. Like, the commercial aspect of it is not to be underrated, because that's one of those things that is not done well, and clients can tell. And I think that, like, where you see partners in the industry is kind of like either throw work over the wall or kind of slot each other into an RFP and say like, okay, well, this is where you'll do this and we'll do that, and there's division of labor. The thing that's not always well understood is that where there's a relationship of trust there, you're putting significant risk to your brand. I mean, you're really saying that, like, the trust that we have with our client really can transfer over to these other trusted parties that we work with. And sometimes that doesn't work out well, and it can backfire. And we're really kind of going in eyes wide open, understanding that, like, Agiloft is a trusted partner, and that Factor is a trusted entity, and that, like, we're seeing that as something that's really important, but also solves an actual pain point for our clients, which is, we've seen clients come to us and say, like, okay, so we got you for services. Like, we don't really, we're going to do like 3 more RFPs. It's going to be around this technology. It's going to be around technology implementation. It's going to be around, some consulting. And so like we need to do, and that means, putting out, like 49 different questions with, 140-page responses. And just like our clients are like, can you just make that not happen maybe? And we're like, yeah, we can. What if we could obviate some of those RFPs, because we know what you're looking for is really strong collaboration that's fit for purpose, and we have trust that you give to us, and we stand in your shoes in terms of like who can pass your infosec requirements, like who your vendor risk, things like that. Like that commercial partnership is not to be underrated. Like when we can actually do that and serve as a bridge, both us and Agiloft, to our respective clients, like that's not something to necessarily sneeze at when it's done really, really well.
No, absolutely. And I think the key word there is trust. And it reminds me a little bit of what law firms did when everyone started globalizing in the late 90s, because some firms initially just couldn't be in every place. It just wasn't, physically or economically possible. And so they started building alliances and best friend relationships. And then some eventually merged together and created the global firms we have today. And then others stayed as they are, like Slaughter and May, for example, still operates what they call a best friends network. With people like Davis Polk in the US and other top firms. And it's all basically down to trust. They remain separate businesses. They're not, exclusively linked. They can still go their own ways, but they have a very deep trusted relationship. But let's just expand on this. So Agiloft is not the only company, is it? There are others. Who else is joining?
In the Factor portfolio, there's Acadia that does a lot of digital transformation for the markets groups inside of large financial institutions. There's also Black Boiler that you may be familiar with around AI solutions for automated redlining. There's Kira, that's a long established leader, and that we've had a partnership with going back into the Axiom days around AI powered data and clause extraction out of contracts at scale. And then the last one is Priori, actually, which is a marketplace for flexible legal talent, and where we see just tremendous opportunity to tap into really broad networks for subject matter expertise, where they can tap into us as a potential respondent and resource into their clients. And we're all like, if you look at across all those 5 parties, like we're all doing so much of, we're all in each other's space in a really interesting way. And where we, as a person that oversees product and solution at Factor, my goal is to assemble our capabilities in a way that have product market fit, right? And so our people, our process, our technology, our data, our knowledge, and client experience. But the way I look at our partnership program is that it vastly expands our capabilities. Some of them just happen to not be at Factor, but we can bring them to bear and assemble them into those products and solutions that make perfect sense for our clients. And so we're really, really excited if you look at the capabilities across that portfolio. And as I mentioned, I mean, Agiloft is an absolute cornerstone to a lot of that, as given that kind of end-to-end platform and flexibility and extensibility and interoperability across talent, across technology. So we're really excited about the whole bag.
Well, let me just ask you. I think it's an important question we've got to cover, which is Lex Fusion, because obviously both of you are in Lex Fusion, which is there are different ways of explaining what it is, but a simple way is to call it a kind of marketing consortium, which you're part of, and I believe Kira is as well, and Priori. I don't think Black Boiler is, though, is it? That's very much on the marketing side. How does what you're doing now mesh with that, and are you in conflict with that?
We're not in conflict with that at all, actually. Lex Fusion was, you could actually say Lex Fusion was one of our earliest partners at Factor. And so, also kind of deserves its own kind of shout out in terms of our connectivity. And we've worked really well with them. They're just a tremendous group in terms of their ability to kind of bring community across our portfolio. These are all independent relationships that we've forged at Factor and the ways that we go to market. There are opportunities that will, where Lex Fusion will really be able to kind of bring a lot of the capabilities that they bring in terms of seeing and perceiving client need in the marketplace and being able to kind of access a community of partners and bring those capabilities together as well. But I think at Factor, in terms of our portfolio, it's where Factor is kind of, a center of gravity, or our partners are pulling us into their groups and into their client portfolios, and really assembling those capabilities in a tightly integrated way. Whereas I think in the Lex Fusion world, they are absolutely interested in doing that. And I don't want to speak on their behalf on like for Joe and for Paul and for Casey, but I would say that that they're just really, really energized about that marketing sort of consortium concept and that community, and being able to really bring a lot of that goodness and information into every corner of the market in a way that is force multiplied and extends really a lot of synergy from those companies that are in their portfolio, as well as those others that are like not inside the factory portfolio. And so I know that's a little bit of a kind of a nuanced answer,
Yeah,
but I
it's
think
just
that
a
really
nuance.
at the end of the day, like to really kind of make it clear, it's accretive, it's really incremental, it's not anything that's in conflict at all.
Right.
We're
I mean,
really excited that
The way that I think about it is think about it from a client's perspective, right? From anyone that I'm working with at Agiloft, or Ed's working with, or in any relationship, one organization is going to have a lot of gravity with that relationship, right? For a specific client, maybe it's Agiloft, right? For another entirely different client, maybe it's Paul and Joe at Lex Fusion, or Casey, right? Maybe it's Ed. That client is looking at that person that they have this sort of core gravity relationship with and saying, what constellation of providers can you bring around yourself to do the best thing you can do for me? And sometimes it's so that's up to Joe, and if it's a Lex Fusion sort of core client, it's up to me. If it's my core client at Agiloft, it's up to Ed if it's Factor. And we need to have these relationships of trusted partners. Sometimes they look a little bit different depending on that client, because not clients just aren't all the same. And so it really pays to have these relationships that might look a little different or sound a little different, have a sort of different name to them. In the end, they're constellations of sort of providers that we're bringing around ourselves to help our clients.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's right. And then, just the footnote to that is, if you're Richard, if you're inquiring as to like, how do we divide up the market and like whether there's overlap or conflict, one of the great things about working with Lex Fusion that I will channel Joe and represent his words here is that like, there's so much market out there to get. Do you know what I mean? Like there's the market is way, way, way large enough for all of us to be kind of centers of gravity in our relationships and be bringing those providers around us. And so conflict is really easy to navigate. It's not like we're all just like the market is massive. Contracting is growing in an unprecedented way. The challenges that our clients are facing are just absolutely, mammoth, and the risk is high. And so, and a lot of the world, as you've really well covered in your, a lot of your coverage, is waking up to this at an accelerated pace. And so I think there's not really, I wouldn't suggest that there's any conflict at all, because the market is so huge and growing. That we could have 10 Lex Fusions, and like just there's space for everybody to really continue to expand and get this out there.
Okay, got you. Let's just we're getting towards the end now. Let's just dig into some of the points we touched on briefly at the beginning. So I mean, there'll be how can we put this? Will there be kind of like data sharing, model sharing, where it's worthwhile? So let's say, for example, you've got Agiloft, Factor, and Kira all working together on a project, and you could see them kind of benefiting from working together. So you've got your NLP for crunching, the documents. You've got Agiloft, which interestingly, you're developing your own NLP for that as well, and you've got the the human capability in fact, and that all kind of gels very nicely. When that job is finished, do you then share the learnings, you might say, of that work project? Do you say, oh, okay, look, we've got some really good models, and Kira says, okay, here, Eric, we know you're doing some NLP stuff. Here, have our models. And you say, okay, that's great. Well, look, I know you're trying to improve, your workflow system. Here's a bit of stuff that we've developed. I mean, are you going to start like sharing and caring in that kind of way?
Not from a technology perspective, not with Kira. That's not the goal here. I think the goal is to set up a project that works for any given client. To your point on if there are sort of sharing of learnings, I think any good project is going to end with some lessons learned or some sort of recap of that project where everybody's at the table and everybody's sharing. I think that will often lead to how do we approach this differently next time together. But nowhere in our group, nowhere in these, are there sort of technology or sort of IP sharing agreements.
No,
That's a
okay.
little bit of
And will you have APIs if such are needed to ensure a smoother transition of data between you and so forth?
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, we all have sort of open systems that can play very well. And I think that's, we're an enterprise tool. We work across sales and procurement and legal and work with all of the enterprise, software tools that our clients have. And if some of that, tooling is other legal tech, absolutely. We love those partnerships.
I think the thing I'll add there is, our data always belongs to our clients. I mean, I guess I should go check all of our DPAs, but I'm almost positive all of our data belongs to our clients. And so, like that data, where there are insights and intelligence that we can gather from that, I'm sure from the Agiloft perspective, there will be exposure to data that they'll get learnings from the Factor perspective. We're always looking to get more intelligence, and from Kira, I'm sure that there's always that interest as well. When it comes to like things like, specially trained fields and whatnot, like this is where Factor is working with Agiloft and also Kira. And, it may be that there are sort of use cases that are better fit one for the other in terms of that AI piece. But what we know for sure is when it comes to workflow, when it comes to end-to-end document generation, when it comes to really these strong capabilities that are across the Agiloft workflow, we are very excited to get pre-configured custom off the shelf with that, as many of Agiloft's customers do. It's a huge kind of strength of the platform. And similarly at Kira, like where we can train, smart fields and get them like looking for specific intelligence, we're happy to do that as well and find the ways to maximize that partnership as well. But I don't, in terms of, same thing with Black Boiler, same thing with like really all of our partners. There are this really goes back to that initial point of making the partnership more than just a business partnership and creating something that gets really sticky in between there.
It's more like it's more like an alliance, isn't it, or a formal association between law firms. Again, it reminds me very much of the globalization of law firms. But I mean,
I think the difference is, Richard, just to tease that apart a little. I think the difference maybe is that in our particular project, it's not as if I'm saying, hey, I can't do this, I can't do anything about this. Ed, please take this. It's for me, it's the situation is more like I have a client. That client is doing as much as they possibly can do with Agiloft. We want to bring Factor in and sort of form a team for for them to go even further, right? For them to sort of do that rigorous process consulting that they don't have time to do or the expertise to do in-house. Or Ed has a client who wants to do that but needs a platform to execute on, right? And says let's come together and do it. So really, for a given project, like we are working together. We're not just handing off and saying it's all you, Ed, or it's all you, Eric. We are really working together.
Got you. So it's more about flexibility and having that kind of credible flexibility.
Yeah, I know who I am. We're a software provider. I know who Ed is. Right? They're a service provider. I think we know who, we have identities as organizations, and our clients don't want us to try to do things that we're not capable of without bringing in really world-class partners.
Gotcha. Well, I've got to ask you this. I mean, is this I asked when Lex Fusion started, but I mean, is this a precursor to a merger? Because you, like I said, like you're dating 2 times over now, so it's kind of like you really got to know each other, and you will get to know each other even better in the next coming weeks, months, and years. I mean,
I think COVID. I think this pandemic taught us that we can never predict the future, but that's not the current state of talks.
Yep, agreed. I mean, look, partnership is a great way to get to know other parties and figure out, like as a precursor to corporate development, of course, there's always lots of opportunities there. We're just focused on partnership here. There's not current talks along anything else. But I will say, where there is the thing I wanted to underline that Eric was saying earlier is that like there's just tremendous capability fit. Right. And like, that's the thing that's really different than like, and I'm not really close to like the best friends relationships or like, things like Lex Mundi or whatever else is out there in terms of, but like we're talking about like really strong capability, like complementary fit. And like, that's exciting for us. That's what makes the partnership like go at turbo speed. It's that where we're not sort of like dancing around like, oh, might we be overlapping here? And like, oh, this is like, we are a service provider. Agiloft is a technology provider. And it's all engines go, so we're really excited about that.
Mhm.
Sure. And just last couple of last very quick questions. This first cohort, I guess you're going to let that kind of digest and settle in before you go for another one, but presumably this is going to get larger and larger, is it? Or do you have a kind of, let's keep it at 5 or 6?
No, we totally invite others to in subsequent cohorts. We're always looking for the right portfolio. Like I don't commit to anything being massively exclusive. I know Agiloft doesn't either, and others. But we're really excited about this first cohort, kind of signaling to the market what we believe are some of our first partners that really bring that collaboration muscle, but also make sense for us as a new law provider. Like that's a big thing here, is that the one-to-many relationship that we have is very different than where a lot of contracting enterprise software is kind of oriented. And we found really some ways to make that make a lot of sense together. And so there's just a lot of really strong qualities as to why this is like a really good set of this, this cohort's really well oriented inside of Factor's partnership strategy. Happy to expand it. I think that, actually one thing I learned from Eric, having worked with him for many years, is that the power of a partnerships and alliances strategy can be just tremendously transformative to an overall business and to what's capable, and your presence in markets, and your capabilities, and what you can do together when it really really works. And so we're focused on, if you will, getting a lot of reps and building up that muscle of collaboration. Factor's only a year and a half old, having spun off totally independently from Axiom. I dare say we're kind of striking out a different tone than in the Axiom world when it comes to partnership, and when it comes to really being eager and willing, and putting a lot of effort and investment into our partnership strategy. And so might that mean that the portfolio grows in future cohorts? Possibly. That's completely open, where there's so many potential partners out there in the market, and that there's so much vetting, but we're very, very committed to making these work. And like, it doesn't make sense to go larger until, that muscle is really present.
Actually, I've just one last, well, almost last question probably. In terms of exclusivity, obviously you're not completely exclusive. You're going to keep working with other parties when you need to, and so forth. But in terms of the partnership, I mean, would you bring in another CLM company, another NLP doc review system? If Luminance calls you up tomorrow and says, "Hey, can we join?" You'd be like, "Sorry, that place is."
Yeah, here's my take on that. I'm kind of, I'll quote Eric again. We don't ever exactly know what the future holds, but I would say, like, let's take that question as a matter of business logic. If we have a wonderful relationship with Agiloft and it's humming along great, and we have a wonderful relationship with Black Boiler, it's going great, then like, what would be the need that would cause us to actually go and get like another end-to-end CLM provider in the mix? There are some where it's like, oh, maybe there's an industry kind of like focus that like Agiloft's like, that's not really our priority. Like, we're really focused on these use cases. And as we go and traverse the roadmap, like, sure, okay, we'll go down a different road with somebody else, like someone that's got great and deep specialization and like the most esoteric kind of like capital markets documentation. Like, okay, maybe there's something there. But I think that's the way to think about the question. It's not like we're just going to go start collecting a bunch of other CLM providers.
Yeah.
We have a wonderful relationship with Agiloft where we're investing and really putting a significant amount of effort. It's not a light thing to easily kind of pick up another one just for the sake of having another one. So it would really be about, it kind of be driven by use case and client and industry.
Gotcha. No, it makes sense, and it sounds great, and it seems very, very logical. It's rather like when Lex Fusion launched. It was just like, how come people don't do this already? And honestly, there are lots of companies that have very, very kind of loose partnership arrangements, but they generally don't do them so tightly. So yeah, it's interesting that iManage is also sort of boosting their partnership program as well.
Yeah, I'll give you a little insight, just like a little inside information. Like when I call up, Elizabeth or Danielle, inside of Agiloft's partnership world, and I'm just, and I know that we're not their only, services partner. Like my conversations are very open and candid around like, how can we be your best services partner? Like, how can we be your number one like having multiple kind of like, whether it's exclusive or not, the strategy overall, the whole thing, like we're all about like making ourselves the best partner for the other. And like, that's how I approach it. And it's really like, what are the factors that will make you just always want to partner with us and not with others if they're in the mix? And like, that's the approach to the whole initiative, is really, how do we make this partnership as absolutely real and sticky and productive and mutually beneficial as possible? And we think that, that's where there's just a virtuous cycle and the partnership gets even better and even deeper.
Fantastic. Thanks, Ed. And just last word to Eric. Thoughts on where this goes from here?
I mean, for me, I want to bring it back to what our customers should be thinking, right? I mean, our customers should be happy. Our customers should look at us getting closer together and say that that's a good thing for them. For me, it all really comes back to the power of the flexibility of the Agiloft platform, and in the hands of an amazing services team, how you can continue to improve that, over and over, day after day. In the end, the goal is not for us to have an amazing partnership. It's for our clients to, excel in what they're doing. And so I think, to me, it all comes back to that. They should be happy that we're getting together, that we, continue to sort of form this amazing bond that can allow them to succeed when they work together with both of the organizations.
Fantastic. Thanks, Eric. Thanks, Ed. Really, really interesting. Good luck with everything. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Richard. See you, Ed.